This video, we're going to be going over the aux return feature of the console. So let's go ahead and see what we got going on. On the left side of the screen here, we have a complete overview of the aux return. For this selected scene that I'm using, I'm not actually using any of the aux returns. That's why it's blacked out. If we notice on the left, we do not have any dynamics processing available on aux return channels. We do, however, on the right side, have all the safe modes for automation, such as mic, EQ, dynamic, mute, automation, and fader. Below that, we have a gain trim knob. We also have a 48-volt phantom power. So if we actually wanted to, we could use these as additional channels into the console so we could patch in any additional mics that we may have, and if they require phantom power, we can go ahead and apply that. Then we have a talk group button as well as a link button. If we wanted to link aux 1 and 2 together, we can go ahead and link that directly here, just by the press of a button. To the left, we have the insert button. If we tried to click that, we don't have that on because we don't have anything routed to it. Below that is the EQ button to bring the EQ in and out of circuit. Below that, we have a visual overview of the EQ, but as you see, it's off, nor do we have any EQ on the channel. Below that is the detail area for any of the aux sends. So right now, we see aux sends 1 through 8, 9 through 16, so on and so forth. The same can also be for the matrices. We got 1 through 8, 9 through 16. Below that, we have the master section assignment. Right now, this is not assigned to the stereo bus or any of the mono buses, and we don't have any panning engaged on the channel. Next, we're in the configuration window of the aux return. So from the top, we see that it's set to unassigned. Why? Because we don't have anything routed or patched into it. The tape return is engaged because the console is actually set to having the tape returns. If we go ahead and click on the source button, it's going to bring up the patching screen to where we could actually patch in signal on the channel. Below that, we have the gain swap. So right now the gain swap button is engaged, so we don't see anything. If there was a head amp option, we would see that on the screen. And if I go ahead and press gain swap, we see that we have the gain trim on the screen. If you remember in the earlier videos, in the preferences, we have all of our linking options for these types of channels globally set to have every parameter engaged. So that's why they're all checked off. Next to that would be the actual link button, which will link 1 and 2 together. The input zone button takes the delay compensation off of this that's going to the left and right and would allow separate delay compensation for its output. Also, one important thing about that, in input mode, it does allow us to use our 72 aux sends as well as our matrices. Next, we have, again, the input channel safe modes. As you see here, we have the EQ, automation, mute, mic, and fader. Below that, we have the gain trim. Just like on all the other channels that we have, this is a -40 or +20 dB of gain trim. So if we needed to make some adjustments to kind of maybe get some aux returns coming back in from a reverb, if we want to get that level a little hotter, we can go ahead and do that right from here. Below that, we have the delay section. Again, this is not delay as you would think in like repeats on a vocal. This has to do with the delay compensation on the console. Next, we would normally have the dynamics in the gate section. On an aux return, we do not have neither of these functions available, so we have nothing to discuss here. Next brings us to the EQ section. Right now, the indication is showing that the EQ is actually disengaged. We can go ahead and put the EQ in, and that indication now is gone. We have 4 bands of fully parametric EQ. For the treble and the bass frequencies, we have 3 shelf filter shapes that we can choose from. These are very similar to XL3, XL4, and the heritage style of EQ. So we can scroll through. Here's the first one, here's the second one, and finally here's the third one. And on the bass frequencies, we can go ahead and toggle through those as well. Now we're back in the aux sends overview. Because we are currently not in input mode, any aux sends, as I said earlier, are disabled on the console. However, groups are allowed to be engaged when not in input mode. So let's scroll down to groups 25 and 26. So we'll scroll down, here we go, and we can go ahead and turn those on. As we see, we were sending already to the snare group. So this will allow us to route signal to those groups. Same for the matrices. We can go ahead and route signal to the matrices regardless if we're in input mode or not. Next, we have the matrix section. As you'll see, matrix 3, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15, they look a little bit different. Why? That's because these matrices are actually stereo matrices. So let's go to matrix 3. As we see here on the encoder knobs, matrix 3 is illuminated green. If we go ahead and press the on buttons just to the left, you'll see that matrix 3 and 4 are actually turned on. Why? Because this is a stereo matrix. The same also applies for the pre-fader button. On a stereo matrix, the first knob is actually going to control our pan levels. You'll see as I turn this to the left, the pan knob goes to the left, and the same when I pan it to the right. The fourth encoder knob is actually going to control the level. Finally, we're in the master and fader overview. On the left-hand side are the assignments to the stereo bus or the mono bus, as well as the indication of the pan knob. To the right of that, we have the mute status as well as the solo status. Between the mute and the solo, we have a B button. And just so you know, the B button has nothing to do with area B on the right side of the console. What this actually does is if we were to solo this channel, its signal is then routed to the monitor B path. So if you had your headphones plugged into the right side of the console, that's where you're going to hear the solo for that channel. If the B button was disengaged and you were to solo and you had your headphones in on the left side, that's when you would go ahead and hear signal. The same also applies to the monitor metering. So if the B button is engaged, you would see signal appearing here on the B monitors. If it was going to the A monitor, you would see that we have signal there as well. To the left of the fader, you see the VCA and pop groups assignments. If this channel was assigned to any of the VCAs or any of the pop groups, you would see the green light illuminated next to it.